Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's June 19th, 2020. It's hot outside. I've been installing landscape fabric, which is black, and a little too much heat right now. So I thought I'd take a break and answer some questions. So Payal asked a question. This is in response to an Ask Me Anything video I did before on how fast do wood chips decompose. And I go into a fair amount of detail in that video. And the response was, this was great. We have a low spot, and when it rains, we have puddle of water 12 inches deep in about 1/3 of our backyard. We are in New Jersey, close to the city. We have a tree that's going to be cut, and we are thinking about putting wood chips. You talked about wood chips floating around when it rains. Will putting landscape paper over it help? Then there were a couple of other additions to the question. I said, that is awesome, and wrote back, so you recommend it? It's our neighbor's tree. Would you happen to know if we need permission? Will landscape paper be a good idea? And then, sorry, I'm rewriting the same message. So my question is, do you recommend it? It's our neighbor's tree. Do I need permission? Do I need landscape fabric on top? Approximately how long will it take to decompose? Well, there's a lot packed into that question. First thing I want to clarify is when I mentioned that wood chips will float around, when we acquire new wood chips that have been desiccated, dried out, or the tree had been dead for over a year, and the hardwood was or the main trunk of the tree and the main branches were chipped up, and they're all dried out, very porous, then initially they tend to float somewhat during the initial period of heavy rain events. And they could potentially, if you've got running water, they could go downstream in that running water. But if you look around on many of the videos that I've done with the Back to Eden systems that we have here, we have a pretty significant slope. There's the hugelkultur pit area that I'm covering with wood chips. And I'll be doing an updated video sometime soon on how well the living fence is growing. But in one video, I took logs from a terrace, a permaculture, hugelkultur terrace, moved those big logs, and I dug down trenches, buried those logs, and have been putting branches and then wood chips on top of that. And we've had significant rainstorms. Now, these are all freshly chipped wood chips, but they don't really move very much. So if you have a low spot that has a berm around it where it's high in other areas and the water tends to settle in that sunken area, I think there'd be very little floating away. And can you cover, if you were to use landscape fabric that's porous, like most landscape fabrics are, that'll allow breathing, so nutrients and water and air can get through the landscape fabric, and if it's secured around the perimeter, yes, that will hold the wood chips down. Would I necessarily go to the added expense of securing them down with something on top of it? Probably not. If I was worried about them floating away, if there was a low spot in the lawn, I'd probably put some stones or blocks at that end if we know that we're going to have big heavy rainfalls, to sieve, to filter out, just let the water go through and retain the wood chips. Do I see wood chips after a few months of getting some rain, and before a big rain event, if you've got plenty of water, you could go out and water the wood chips down some. Cardboard, the wood chips on the top will dry out, but the wood chips gradually absorb and absorb and absorb water. They really retain a lot of moisture. That's why wood chips are used as a mulching application in gardens and in paths and all. But they're going to break down, and how quick will they break down? Depends on the wood that's used. The more green material that's added into it, like This time of year right now, so this is June 19th, so there's lots of green foliage on live trees. So, and if there's lots and lots of small branches being chopped up, well, that material will break down rapidly. Within 2 years' time, the area will have sunk in at least 50%. So in some cases, I'd say mound it up higher than 1 foot if the area that you want to fill is 1 foot deep, because it really is a significant amount of air and carbonaceous material that's going to be taken down by the microorganisms and the earthworms and all, and brought down into the subsoils or the soil that you're covering up. So all that's going to decompose, and we can get if you look at a recent video that I did, I think it was the first garden tour this year, around June 4th, I think it was. And in that video, I referenced a video 3 years ago where I was building those beds with fresh wood chips from the truck service, from the tree service. And I built that up. They were about almost 3 foot deep at the time. Now they've all broken down and are, with the exception of some woody pieces, but almost all of it has completely broken down. So in this area, New Jersey isn't too far from New York. We're in a relatively same climate. We're a little bit cooler climate. We're 5A, you're 6. And I just say that the volume is going to decrease significantly over a 3-year period, and you'll probably need to add more wood chips. With respect to, do you need permission to take the wood chips from your neighbor? If they're having a tree service do it, I just talk to the tree service and say, can you dump some wood chips here? Or talk to the property owner and say, is it possible for me to come over and get so many wheelbarrow loads, or are you okay with me? I would work it out so that everybody's comfortable, with the transfer of woody material, waste product, to your property. I'm not sure just how things work in different parts of the country. Around here, if I see the tree service working alongside the road and they're chipping things up, I'll just say to them, hey, I'm right down the road here. I'd love to get some loads of wood chips forever and ever. But so if they aren't already promised someplace else, and if they're free, I'll show you where you can dump them on a regular basis. And that's how I got the tree service to come here and dump chips regularly. So I hope that answers your question. That's my best. Wood chips can break down at different rates depending on the type of material, the age of the tree, the time of the tree that the tree components are chipped in, how many small branches they are as well. And so it can take some time, and some people will think wood chips are unsightly, where I think wood chips make ideal paths and are a great addition to the gardens, and many people have complimented on the way that our place appears. But not everybody likes the appearance of wood chips. They see it as junk and want it removed. So I hope that answers the question. If you have more questions, please ask them below. I'd appreciate it. Potter Witch asked, I have a shed, and this is in response to pruning blackberry plants, probably either early this spring or in previous years. I have a shed I want to hide, so was thinking of erecting a tall trellis in front of it, about 8 foot, and growing thornless blackberries, rambling variety. Could you tell me how many months they are bare leafed? So this is a question that I always have more questions about. So you mentioned putting a trellis about 8 feet. And yes, blackberry plants can get to that high. I'd say our blackberry plants we have thornless blackberry plants, and so one of our goals of growing the thornless blackberry plants is to harvest the blackberries because of all of the phytonutrients that are in them, potent antioxidants loaded with anthocyanins. So we want to get to the blackberries easily, and I have to prune our thornless varieties, semi-erect ones that tend to go in all different directions and go out in the ground. you know, basically like twice a year. Now I haven't been keeping up on it, and the deer have been going into it, so the plants are much smaller this year. And I'll be making a video about that in the next couple of, hopefully within the next week. But how many months are they without leaves? Well, the leaves are dying off, but not necessarily dropping and turning brown in November. They're probably dropped off by the end of December, and we don't start getting the leaves back until May, I'd say. So there's at least 4 to 5 months that they're without adequate coverage. Now, if your goal, if one of your primary goals is to conceal a building structure so that for whatever reason it's an eyesore, or you want to hide it, and you want more of a permanent hidden feature, there are other plants that I would consider. So those that can still produce fruit are hardy kiwis. Hardy kiwi plants, you put in a few plants around a building, and they will grow and grow and grow, and even when their leaves fall off, and they are edible fruit, the hardy kiwis. They're not like the kiwis that you pick up in the grocery store. They're about the size of a grape or a little bit smaller, but you eat the whole thing, you don't have to peel it, and they taste delicious. And even when their leaves fall off, they certainly, with the rambling of the woody material from them, they can completely conceal a building hidden behind that, or even go over the top of them. In our pergola, in some of the videos, you'll see that that even during the winter months, the top of the pergola, which is about 8 foot tall, it's at least 4 feet above that, very loose, very lightweight, but the birds love to nest in there, they love to feed in there, the bees are attracted to it, so it's a really wonderful fruit producing, building concealing type of viney structure that you can have. Other non-edible viney structures that are probably pretty good are climbing roses. We have many wild variety of climbing roses that climb. One of my trellises 12 feet tall, and it's created this big crown above it. Now these roses have thorns on them, so they can be sore if you're driving by, and some of the limbs that are growing out this season are hanging down and you're not realizing it. You're on a lawnmower, that can catch you and rip you up pretty badly. If I wanted to plant bushes that produce berries that are right in front of it and have a couple of different types, I'd consider plants like the currant bushes. They can get 5 foot tall, be 6 foot wide, or 4 foot wide in circumference, and produce edible berries that are good for canning and a variety of other things. The black currants are very tart. And the wildlife don't bother them so much. The high bush cranberry bushes that I featured in the second food forest tour, they can get very tall, over 8 feet tall. They're freestanding. The deer do love them and love to pick at them. They produce beautiful, beautiful green foliage, rapid growing, and beautiful red berries that the birds love and the wildlife love and feed through the winter months as well. So those are my thoughts on a few of the bushes that are around, and I think that'll take up enough space on this video for this YouTube video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. If you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, and by all means, folks, have a great day. Bye-bye now.